Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 24th of February, comes to you from London. And I start by looking at the dollar index, and I thought I'd put the ADX on this. This is Wells Wildest directional movement. And actually, he said it was the ADXR, which is the average of the ADX now versus the ADX 14 days ago. I've used 21 days. I think it just suits more a month. But the theory behind the ADX is if we're above 25, we're trending. If we're below 25, we're not trending. And that really does just highlight here we were trending. It's a bit lagged, but here we were trending. And now we're in a sideways market that's been going on now for several months. We did touch a new low, but the dollar is in this sideways range, still below the cloud, with a downside target. But at a new low, we may then start a new downtrend in the dollar. But the key point was just to understand how this ADX works. In this instance, you don't know whether you're trending up or down. You need to read the plus D and minus D on the directional movement to do that. But I just thought that was an interesting thing just to show. So looking at the dollar, no big changes there, and that means currencies generally are pretty quiet. This is the move down on tariffs after Friday, when we opened on Sunday night, after Friday's decision in the US. But we're recovering quite a lot of lost ground there, but of course not making a new high. So uncertainty around the dollar at the moment, and most other currencies we're not seeing much change. Bitcoin, there was, you may recall, an unactivated upside target that has been deactivated because we have negated the thrust where that occurred. So that is really interesting. On the daily, that's negative, of course, and we are seeing downside targets on the 60-minute to 60,000 and 58,000. So back to that previous low, which was $60,008. That's marked on the chart with the Linton levels, and then 58.5, and on the daily we have a target of 54.597. So these downside targets, you just can't ignore them. We're bearish below the clouds, so not good news for Bitcoin. Looking at the Nasdaq, waiting to see if we activate this downside target. We've had some pretty big falls in some of the Mag 7, and we'll look at that in a minute. But interestingly, we're waiting to see if we activate this downside target. I ran a poll on LinkedIn yesterday. I've got 34,000 followers on LinkedIn. I ran a poll on LinkedIn yesterday saying, would the Nasdaq break higher or lower? And that poll is currently running at around 50-50. So that just really highlights the uncertainty. And all eyes are on NVIDIA, who are reporting tomorrow night after the market close. Interesting, in the US, they report after the market close. In the UK, generally report before the market opens. So, but the key thing is that everyone's waiting to see if those NVIDIA results are stellar enough to push the market higher. We have got the futures up this morning about 0.25%. The FTSE future is down slightly, but we are seeing that trajectory still running on the daily chart. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, targets given, target met. That target was given at 10,400 to 10,700. That's where we've got to. We've got another one that's slightly higher. We look like we might be running out of steam a little bit, but the key point is that's a very short-term view. The DAX in Germany, little change there. We're waiting to see if we activate an upside target there as well. Japan continues to hold its gains, so that's looking good. On the 60-minute chart, we're waiting to see if we activate an upside target, so that's quite key. But coming back to the daily chart, we're really waiting. And then the long term, you can see here how it's just broken out. We don't have a clear target there on the weekly chart. We're looking at the Shanghai Composite, which is now open after Chinese New Year, very close to activating an upside target. And just in terms of currencies, even though there hasn't been much action on the dollar, a couple of currencies that have been strong, of course, is the Australian dollar. It's really broken out. We've got an upside target to 76 cents. We're sitting at 71.50 at the moment. And then the Chinese yuan, this one is really interesting. If you look at the weekly, remember, this is the dollar, how many yuan the dollar buys. So the dollar is weaker against the Chinese yuan, and that's really quite a clear double top on a very long-term chart. So dollar weakness, Chinese currency strength is a key factor there. Oh, another one that has also been very strong is the South African rand. And you can see again, dollar buying less rand. And if you look at the daily chart, those targets given, one nearly met there. So you can't ignore the price targets. So looking at gold, that was breaking yesterday. I ran a survey on LinkedIn on this as well. 70% of respondents believe that gold is going to go higher in March, and 30% feel we'll break that lower and go lower. So over 2/3 of the market see we're going higher. We did break that critical 5,100 level, so we're looking quite strong there. So that's also quite key on gold. Silver was up strongly yesterday as well. Similar picture here, and you can see now that upside target is kind of winning out. We're above the cloud. We still do have a mixed picture with that downside target, but the interesting thing is there, if we look at the short term, we've got a good upside target higher, which we don't have on gold. So that is positive for silver as well. Taking a look at some of the bellwethers, Apple was up, Amazon down 2.3%, still bearish below the cloud on the daily. Alphabet, which has been a strong performer, down 1%. That's counter trend, really. No big moves there. And if we look at Microsoft, my God, what a fall from that has been. All gaps are said to be filled. Well, we've come back definitely and filled that gap of last April. We are making multi-month lows there, so that is really significant. Meta were down 2.8%, so we are seeing quite a fall away there. Mixed targets, but the reality is the downside is ruling. Looking at Nvidia, we have activated yesterday that upside target that was orange, that has turned green. Anticipation surrounding those results tomorrow, that's going to be really quite key. So definitely one to watch. And Tesla were down 3%, two downside targets there. Looking at the Dow, we saw credit cards hit heavily yesterday. Amex down 7%, so that's really quite key. Visa also model downside targets, not looking good there. Procter & Gamble, this is an interesting one, just activated a new upside target for recovery. If you go to the 60-minute chart, not much to play for on the 60-minute, but that daily target quite interesting, and Walmart back to its strong performance, just really fantastic. If we look at the NASDAQ, there were some really big percentage changes here yesterday. PayPal were bucking the trend for payments, but they have had a terrible time if you look at that. But if you go the other way and look at some of these stocks, we really have had some really big falls. Intuit, and if we look at that, we go to the weekly, just nudging a 5-year low there. And Adobe, they are making a 6-year low. In fact, they're even getting near a 7-year low. So really quite significant there. That is a 7-year low. So we are seeing some really big falls there. Paychex, another payment down, again, 5-year low. So it's really interesting how we are seeing quite a broad sell-off in the NASDAQ. Last of all, we take a quick look at the FTSE 100. And we just again do percentage changes here. We can see not great big performance. We've got Convatec up 6%, but that is really running sideways. If we run the other way, Relx, what a disaster that has been. Downside target there. Just shows you can't really trust these downsides. But the FTSE today, generally, we are seeing quite a lot of falls. Again, Sage, 2-year lows, London Stock Exchange, despite that active investor lows there as well. So it's really a mixed picture. Keep an eye on those targets. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.